Well, good evening and greetings from the Mile High City. I'm sorry I was unable to attend your party, Ed, but thanks to the miracles of technology, I was able to record and send this video greeting. Thanks to Ellen, Joanna, and Leslie at Michigan Shores for the technical assistance. So you're 80 years old, Ed. Congratulations. You know, there aren't many things in this world that last 80 years. I was thinking about it and I realized you are in fact older than the gay rights movement, older than the civil rights movement. In fact, you've been around longer than all but 2 of the 30 Major League Baseball stadiums. You're also older than the United Nations and even older than the Michigan Shores Club, where you're celebrating this grand occasion this evening. In addition, I realize you're older than the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan too. In fact, you're older than rock and roll. Now that's old. Speaking of Bob Dylan, you know, it's fitting that I reside in Colorado, the first state to legalize marijuana, because when I was a child, Ed would often play Dylan's Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35, for me to cheer me up. We'd march around the dining room table, banging our pots and pans together and singing along, "Everybody must get stoned." Speaking of which, this brings up a trivia question of sorts. What does Ed have in common with Bill Clinton? Well, Ed was at a party in Denver once where a joint was passed around, and like our former president, Ed claims he puffed on it, but did not inhale. Another note on Bob Dylan, about 10 years ago, Ed took Ellen to go see him at the United Center. Apparently, he forgot that Dylan had electrified back in the 60s. He was expecting a nice mellow folk concert. They ended up leaving shortly after the show started because it was too loud. As the saying goes, if it's too loud, you're too old, and you, Ed, are old. I have a couple other things I wanted to share here. I understand you're showing off some pictures this evening. I have one to add to that, the only copy of this one, I believe. And so here we go. It's Ed and I in Salt Lake City after he was picking me up at the airport, or me meeting him, rather. He was flying in. I was staying there with my Granny Rose for a little while. And there's a poem that goes along with it. This is the poem. It says, Ed and Mike, the joy of reunion, the father and his boy. I'm so glad to see you again. Without him, I am empty. With him, complete again. We walk hand in hand to the plane. Maybe those clouds are airplane clouds because they're moving. You stupid ham sandwich, you keep falling apart. The boy, a beautiful picture, red hair glistening in the sunlight, bursting with energy, bubbling with imagination. The father, grinning with pleasure and pride. The joy of reunion. I'm so glad to see you again. And now we have one other item from the archives. We'll set the scene. It's October of 2008, I believe, and the Cubs were in the middle of one of their epic collapses when I got this left on my answering machine.
Anyhow, I'm just calling because I'm so sick and disgusted and fed up with the goddamn Cubs. God. Can you believe what a bomb? You know, even when Pryor strikes out 16 people, they lose. And then, of course, they lost again today. So if they had won today and the next 2 days, they would still have a shot. But obviously, they don't now. Well, you know, I suppose technically they could pull it out if you're Rockies and the Dodgers are successful. But you know, what's the likelihood of that happening? And then even if they did pull it out, I mean, it's just so likely that they're going to bomb. They would bomb in the playoffs or in a tiebreaker. So they are just a total joke. This is really the first year that I have gotten so caught up in it all. So now I know how it feels to be a total Chicago sucker like all the rest of our local residents. So anyhow, I'm just doing a little venting and commiserating. See you later.
There you go. Words of optimism from Mr. Optimism himself. You know, as we grew up, he would always tell myself and Joanna, never say can't. But apparently that does not apply to the Chicago Cubs in 2008 and perhaps in 2016. So don't be offering to bring Ed along to Wrigley Field this fall, folks. All right, well, I just want to leave you with a little musical number, one of my dad's favorite songs. In fact, I only know about it because of him. It's an old number by Derek and the Dominoes. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. Once I lived the life of a millionaire. I spent all my money, I didn't have any cares. Took my friends out for a mighty good time. Bought bootleg liquor, champagne and wine. But then I began to fall so low. Lost all my good friends, I didn't have nowhere to go. I'd say it's strange, without a doubt. Nobody knows you. I said no, nobody knows you. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. "80 years old, you're up and not out, but I am out of here." Happy birthday, Dad.